Welcome to Fjook Enterprises Conversations with Fjook, where I interview people about a myriad of topics. Today I am once again interviewing someone about animation. This time it's Amanda.
Hello.
Welcome, heroes and villains, to Fjook Enterprises YouTube channel. Take a moment, relax, stop your bickering, and just enjoy the show.
So, what got you interested or started in doing animation?
Well, I have to admit, it was, I guess, a bit of a fluke on my part. I've always been artistic, drawing, even when I wasn't supposed to be in class, for example. Um, Always drawing, always being ridiculous. And then I got into the theater productions, and I really liked that too. And then it came time to go to college, and my parents were like, "You need to pick a course," and I went, "Uh-oh. Well, I like drawing and I like acting. Pretty sure I can't make it as an actor. What about this? This looks like fun." So, yeah, I went into animation and it has been the best thing. It's, as my family describes, I found my tribe. And yeah, always loved cartoons, so I just sank right in.
Is it just a college degree you have for education in animation, or do you have more than the college degree?
Actually, it is just the college degree. Um, and I have to be honest, not too many studios actually look necessarily for your college degree. What matters most is your demo reel. So if you can show that you have the ability to animate and you understand timing, you understand acting, the nuances of weight and body motion and good silhouette, then you're probably going to be all right. So even some of my classmates who weren't necessarily the highest got the highest grades, they are now supervisors and directors. So it's, while yes, the college degree can help in a sense that it gets you connections with people that you're going to be working with for the rest of your career, most likely. And also networking through studios and whatnot, because the teachers all know people too. Um, you could, if you want to, you can just learn how to do this on your own at home. And if you're very passionate and dedicated, you could get a job without having to go to college.
It sounds like you've gone headlong into animation, so that makes me wonder, can you watch animated media, professional or amateur, without analyzing it?
Yes and no. So it is a problem because sometimes if I notice something that kind of, and it's not something that a lot of regular audience members might notice, but something I go, wait, that felt off. And then I'll have to go back and rewatch. It's something where it's not jarring enough that I'll have to pause the show because I'm pretty usually fairly good at hanging up my suspension of disbelief over here. But every now and again, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm going to have to go back and watch that and then go frame by frame. But then on the other hand, if you see something that is just spectacularly done, then you almost kind of want to go, no, stop. Go back. I want to see that again. I want to see that again right now. And it's, yeah, it can be pretty hard sometimes because you can't just scream that out in a movie theater. So streaming has helped. I can pause, I can go back. But yeah, oh boy. It's really funny when you have an entire theater full of animators going to see the same movie at the same time.
Since your original first day of college and going into animation, has the animation industry changed?
Yes, yes, it has, and actually, quite spectacularly in a lot of different ways. One of the first things is my class was one of the first classes in college to have a majority of women graduate. So that's kind of bled up into the industry. More and more women are now here. But the most major and significant change as far as daily life for animators go, when I started, there were maybe 2.5 studios in Ottawa that actually had work, or existed in Ottawa at the time. So there wasn't as much fierce competition, and everyone was paid on frame rate. So whatever you could do in the week, you had maybe 95 cents per frame, $1 per frame. If you were very lucky, $1.25. Oh boy. And you just had to invoice as much as you can, and that was your paycheck. So it was very unreliable because you get paid the same amount for a scene with 17 characters as you do for a scene with one, despite 17 characters taking you a much longer time to do. So that could be very hard for a lot of people in the industry, and it led to huge amounts of burnout in which people will just burn straight out of the industry. Nowadays, we're really, really lucky that we have better. If we still have frame rates, we have much better minimum frame rates, so it's much easier to get along. We also have benefits programs now, which is really nice. But we also, for the vast majority of everyone in Ottawa, have salaries. So while we do still have to achieve a minimum frame rate per week to maintain a certain quality and quota to keep the show going, you actually can plan and budget and save up for a future, which can be really life-changing, especially for people who, maybe want to have little animators of their own down the line. A lot of my classmates have done that. It's pretty cute. You bring them into the studio sometimes.
I understand non-disclosure acts, but if you can, would you like to talk about your favorite thing you've animated?
Oh my goodness, would I ever? I had the great, great, great good fortune of being a part of Netflix's Inside Job for season 1. And there's one episode, I think it's episode 4. It's the one after Reagan's mom marries herself. So I think anyway, don't quote me. It's the one where there's this big 007 spy guy who's like, yes, I am the greatest gift to women all over the planet because that is my character archetype. It's gorgeous. And Reagan was like, all right, I can relax for one night. And then he shows up to work the next day. And she's like, oh no. And he's convinced now that, yes, we are together and you are my girlfriend. So she goes into his whole fake her death and actually becomes a super villain. And I got to do a part where she is just laying into him, saying, you are a corny misrepresentation of what people think women want, and you are just the worst, and the only people that like you are dads or people who didn't have dads. And it was just so great, and she's just laying into him and just having a huge moment and venting all the frustrations. And he goes, what is this? Mind games? And she says, no, this is an honest conversation with a woman. End scene. Hands down, it has been my favorite, most funniest thing that I have ever gotten to animate, and I hope that it lives on beyond me, because, oh my goodness, it was just so much fun. Just that whole big dramatic acting, it's just, Check it out on Netflix.
What types of animations do you do? Just one or multiple, or?
Well, the thing about animation, usually, is you kind of have to move on to whatever projects are in the studio. So sometimes that means you're working on something like Welly Wishers or My Little Pony or Jake and the Neverland Pirates, Bubble Guppies. Or you could be at the other spectrum doing Final Space, Inside Job, Hilda. That's also done here in Ottawa. Or even Centaur World, which is completely wacky and insane all the time. So you really have to be versatile for myself, I kind of prefer. I really love the acting shots. I really like the slow, intense animation where you're getting a little more realistic and you can really feel the emotion in the face. You're doing the eye twitches and micro expressions. That just, I love that stuff. But for me right now, I've actually shifted. I'm a lighting specialist in compositing. So I'm having to animate rim lights on fight scenes and lightning and all kinds of fire and laser beams and holograms. And it's so fun too. That's the thing about animation. There's so many different things that you can do.
What is the hardest thing you've animated?
My goodness, the hardest thing I've ever animated. I know the one scene that probably took me the absolute longest to do was a scene with a family of, what was it? I think there are 13 characters sitting around a table, and the main kid character, this is on the Loud House for Nickelodeon. Lincoln, he stands up and he just slams both his fists down on the table, and every single bit of cutlery and plate, bowl, everything has to jump up and rattle and settle. And I think once I finished counting, there were 73 items that I had to animate in the scene. And yeah, that was crazy, just going through and making sure every single plate had the perfect like up and then fall and roll around and then settle, and then every fork tracking where it's going and making sure each. It was a lot. And then all the characters having to react too, so doing all the humans going whoa whoa, and reacting to him, and that took a long time, I'm gonna say. Maybe not technically the most hard, but it's one that really sticks out in my mind is like, oh man, I'll never forget that week. For a scene that was, gosh, I think it was maybe 4 seconds. About a week to do 4 seconds.
So, from what I can gather from this conversation, you tend to work with other animators a lot. Does that always go well?
For the most part, yes. Yeah. Like it could be a little interesting because we have to hook up to each other's scenes. Because like it has to flow from one to the other. So especially if it kind of like the scenes get divided in the middle of an action sequence, sometimes you kind of have to wait for another person to get to a certain point so you can hook up to that point in their animation. So you're like, could you please just work on this scene? But it doesn't really cause fights. You could just be like, hey, I've got to hook up to that scene. Let me know when you're done that scene so I can work on my scene and get that done. Because here's the other thing about animation, and everybody knows everybody. And you never know who's going to be your next supervisor or boss. So just, be kind. Try to get out of your own ego. Take a couple breaths. We're all in this together. It'll all get done when it gets done. You just gotta try your best. But, tensions can run a little high sometimes, especially when deadlines are nigh.
For my penultimate question, do you have any advice for either people wanting to get into animation, either professionally or as a hobby?
Ooh. First and foremost, the advice I have with that is definitely decide if you want it to be a job or a hobby. Because of how intense the animation industry and deadlines can be sometimes, like some contracts are rough. Some contracts are wonderful. Some clients are rough. Some clients are wonderful. But you're going to get a mix of both over your career, and you really have to decide if you are going to be doing this every single day, you might not have time or energy or the spirit, if you will, the chutzpah to do your own animation and art afterwards. For myself, I burnt out for a good few years and also had tendonitis and whatnot in my right arm from drawing. Uh, but it was very difficult for me, and it's very difficult for me still to find time to do my own animation and to kind of revitalize my own love for it in a way. Not that I don't love it, but it's a little different when you get to make your own creative choices in everything. Whereas when it's your job, you have to bow to your supervisors, bow to the clients, revise things that you might like that just doesn't suit the style. So really decide, if this is going to be your job, make sure that like you might need to be aware that some of your passion might ebb away a little bit. And if you keep it as a hobby, well, maybe it might not make you the money or not that animation really gets you that much renown anyway, but if you want to keep it as a hobby and enjoy making fun things for the sake of making fun things, then maybe just do that, because sometimes the slog will get you down. It will, eventually. But if you're able to keep that creative side going, if you're able to just keep on creating new things and waking up every day and you've got a smile and know this is what you want to do, animation is just something that, oh, makes you feel like that, definitely go for it. Get into the industry, because you are just going to find so many people who feel exactly the same. And even though it is sometimes really hard, at the end of the day, it's a really fun community to be a part of. Everyone's pretty darn cool and uplifting.
I always end my interviews with the same question. Is there anyone or anything you would like to shout out at this time?
I should mention the Ottawa Animation Festival that happens in September in Ottawa. OAIF. OIAF, that's the one. OIAF. And then there's the TAFI, TAAFI, which is the Toronto Animation. And granted, that one's more for the industry, but it's still really cool to go see stuff. So all of these are showing really cool cartoons and animated projects that have been done locally by artists in Canada and Ottawa here. And it's really neat, especially the Ottawa animation. You get some like really weird, cool things that people have done, like scratching on film and all kinds of like crayon art that they've animated. It's wild. Animation is a boundless medium.
Thank you for joining me, and if you've made it this far in the video, like and comment and subscribe, and go check out the animation festivals.
Yeah!